If there was a cartoon of a chocolate cake, this would be that cake. It does bring a lot of like oohs and ahs when it finally comes, or just the comical aspect of being like, are you kidding me? This is way more than I need. Because it's way more than 2 people need to eat for cake, but it's not a need, it's really a want. It's fantastic. I could eat the whole thing pretty easily. I'm Chef Joshua Pinsky, the chef of Claud in the East Village, and I'm gonna show you our most ordered dish and how to make it, our devil's food cake. So we go through 3 cakes a day, 7 days a week, and we get 12 slices of cake per cake. So the first step for the devil's food cake is making the frosting. So we want to let it sit overnight and set up so that we can make it pliable and we can spread it into even layers on the cake. Frosting, first thing is chocolate. So this isn't assorted percentages of chocolate. The fact that we have to buy 3 different chocolates every time for this is kind of a pain in the ass, but the flavor makes sense. Chocolate and butter go in the bowl. This is just scalded milk and cream because milk doesn't give you the like thick, luscious mouthfeel. And if you use all cream, it's too much of that. And then the last part of this is a little bit of gelatin that we've bloomed in ice water. So we'll strain it just to get any pieces of butter or gelatin or chocolate maybe that didn't get fully incorporated. And then we'll put this in a refrigerator and let it set, and it'll like form up into a perfect frosting. The next step for the cake is mix and bake the chocolate cake layers. So we'll sift everything here. Flour, this is like our brown cocoa powder, and then our black cocoa powder. Baking soda and baking powder, sugar. So like the salt will be the last thing that kind of catches, so I'll just kind of rub that in. This is so you don't get clumps of the baking powder and baking sugar. Next, we're gonna add our wets to the dry. And in this container is 1 liter of buttermilk, about 400 grams of oil, and 8 eggs. So we'll just go kind of right in. Some can say like, why don't you just do this in a mixing bowl? It's just never come out the right way. It just doesn't. It overmixes and then becomes dense. It essentially ends up making a brownie every time. So this is like kind of like a slow process no matter what. Whoever's making it is like never trying to rush it, just kind of going slow and folding it all together. This is just instant coffee powder. Boiling water. So this helps temper and extra hydrate this cake batter a little bit at a time. And again, just trying not to overwork it. It's like chocolate is hard to work with. It changes the dynamic of cakes, of ice creams, of anything you're using it with because of the texture and densities of it. So I do find making chocolate cake very challenging. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to do it here. I can't wait for a pastry chef to watch this and to just be like, that's not real, that's not how this works. I think there's no rules in cooking at all. The final product is kind of all that matters. So we're about done here. You get little spots of baking powder or baking soda clumps in your cake. They don't show after the bake, they kind of like sit and hydrate because most of those bumps are air pockets. That's cake batter. Now it's time to fill the pans. So these are 9-inch pans just to keep them from sticking, and then we'll line them with parchment paper. We're going for a 1-inch layer. Like we want them to rise and be a full inch. Spot on, there we go. Now we have like 3 or 4 people that are perfectionists and geniuses at this. That was me, now I'm like, I feel like I'm on the low rung of that list, but I'm confident in these cakes today. Hey Siri, set a timer for 20 minutes. That's what we're going for. These look great. So it's important to let these cakes rest. If we were to try to take them out now, they're very fragile and they'll just kind of break and fall apart and smash. So next step here is the soak for the cakes. Arguably the most important part for flavor. This is kind of where the devil makes its way into the cake. First thing we'll do is just grate a hearty amount of ginger. So this was sugar, and then this is our booze, vermouth. So we'll use the evaporated milk, which also has like a lot of good texture to it. And we'll just mix this up. We'll just add a pinch of salt just to really brighten it up. And I just want to see how that ginger's showing. It's fantastic. So the cakes are just about cooled. So we'll strain this, get into a squeeze bottle, and then we'll grab the cakes and start building. So here's where we're kind of scoring it. It'll make kind of like a tic-tac-toe, kind of on the edges, because you want the soak to kind of get more into the edge than in the center. So we kind of just like go pretty heavy on this. And you'll see as it sits, it'll start to like, fill it in. Like I went too much in that center. It's not the end of the world, but I really do want to focus on the outside. I always say it's like pizza. You don't put cheese in the center of the pizza. The cheese will just naturally make its way to the center. So this is acetate. This will be the base of the cake. For the first cake, always want to try to find the biggest cake because it's the foundation. When you have all the layers above it, gravity will like weigh it down. So you want your biggest cake on the bottom. So first layer of frosting. Using the wheel, like when everybody first starts doing this, you do like little bits. You really want to explore the cake and explore the wheel. There's like a lot of thickness in the center. So if you were to like leave that there, you would see big dollops in the center of the cake. So I'll kind of thin it out in the center and move it to the outside. That's kind of the goal, is like move all the frosting to the end. And then when I talk about inverting, what I mean is doing that and then laying it down. And then we'll also look around for what could be the thinner of the options, and you'll put that at the top because everything will press and then they'll make them all the same size. So we're 5 layers up. Now's the time we'll add the acetate. So you kind of have to like push the cake into it and then let it just drop. The less you touch it, the better. It's kind of the idea. That was a good one. Of course, all the way at the end. Man, this is a big cake. Of all the layers, the top will have the thickest layer. And that's it for now. Now we'll take this and I'll put it in the refrigerator at least for 30 minutes, maybe 40. And then all that frosting will kind of reset. So we want to make sure it stays and keeps its integrity. So if we were to just glaze the cake like this, all the glaze would pour down almost like an avalanche and just roll down a bunch of crumbs from the cake itself. So we're basically setting like a barrier and that we can pour the glaze over. So when you grab the big one, this is how we make like even and smooth here. We just kind of want to touch up a little parts of this. I'm excited to see my cake face. Everyone has like a face where they stick their tongue out, or they like squint or use one eye. Everyone has like a cake face. It's like your phone voice. I've never seen my own, but I'm about to. All right, do I want to keep going? Okay, I'm gonna stop there. So the cake has been fully crumbed, covered in frosting. We're gonna let this sit in the refrigerator for another 30 or 45 minutes so it can firm up. In this pot right here is cream and a touch of water, a little bit of gelatin, which will help it set, and it also gives it the sheen that a glaze is supposed to have. Sugar, which is the same thing, A, to make it taste good, and B, to help with the sheen and the shininess. And then the cocoa part of this, because we want this glaze to be stark black and have as much chocolate flavor as possible. It needs to come up to at least 90 degrees, and we'll put the gelatin in, and then we'll bring it up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Just find that that's like the sweet spot for the glaze to pour over, be thin, not clump up, and not be too hot to melt the frosting. You can get up to like 118, 119, but anything higher than that, once you pour it on the cake, the whole cake's just gonna like melt off. All right, let's transfer. Until you've done this a bunch, it is a little intense or scary. And so we have a chinois or passette here. Everything I say, you want to do the outside first. It will probably take about another 30, 45 minutes before this kind of creates its own like film, but we're in it. I'd say perfect, but it's almost perfect. Nah, it's perfect. So we are now at the final step of the devil's food cake. And now we're gonna take our grated dark chocolate and blow it all over the outside for both for aesthetics and for texture, and just to add as much chocolate as possible. So last transfer, get under the acetate. This is our plate that we serve all of our cake off of. There's all these notches here. So 2 notches is a slice. So altogether, there's 12 slices in this cake. Devil's food cake, here it is. The actual final step is slicing it and putting it on a plate. Here we go. Here's the 7-layered devil's food cake. Chocolate on chocolate on chocolate. The salt really like amps up the chocolate flavor, so the salt really makes or breaks it, to be honest. We definitely have people who come in just for the cake. My favorite is people who dine in, order a cake for here and to go because they want to bring one home too. It does bring a lot of like oohs and ahs when it finally comes, or just the comical aspect of being like, are you kidding me? This is way more than I need. Because it's way more than 2 people need to eat for cake. It's fantastic. I could eat the whole thing pretty easily. Is it in my mustache?